record button here. Awesome. We'll just let everyone kind of settle in, but welcome. This is actually our first ever meetup for social impact businesses and social entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for coming. We are so excited to be hosting you. This is going to be, I'm biased. I think it's going to be the raddest panel that we've ever hosted. So super glad that we can have everyone here today. My name is Katie Boothby-Kung. I work at Shopify. I'm the senior manager for social impact, and I work with social impact businesses and social entrepreneurs. Part of my role is to make social entrepreneurship more accessible and easier for anyone starting a business. So through partnerships, education, and platform tools, we want to make becoming sustainable and becoming socially minded easier every single day you run your business. So obviously I'm super pumped to have this panel today. And we have Melanie. So she is our lovely moderator. And Mel blends over 10 years of technology and communications expertise with passion for advocacy that extends into everything she does. Leading cross-functional agency teams for brands including LexisNexis, Honda, and Volkswagen, she's honed skills to create compelling narratives. Her forte is engaging brand communities around impact, obviously. Mel is passionate about women's issues, focusing on maternal and mental health. She's served as vice chair on the West Hollywood Women's Advisory Board, which advises City Council on initiatives and legislation related to women. She's also here with us from DailyKarma, one of our app partners. So exciting. Welcome. And before we kick it off, something that we always do at our Shopify events, because we find them to be very important, is we do a land acknowledgement. So where I am, I'm based out of Ottawa, Ontario. So we are on the unceded territory of the Algonquin peoples and the Anishinaabe people here in Ottawa. We do land acknowledgement, so just a little bit of a background. They're very important to the Indigenous culture. It's a long-standing practice of the Indigenous peoples who have had a relationship with the land, and they recognize the importance of the land to the cultures, ceremonies, and the traditions of their people. And so this is a virtual event, obviously. And so I encourage everyone to take time either now or after the panel to look into what land they're standing on today, and maybe do some research into the peoples that stood on those lands before. So without further ado, I will lead it over to Melanie. She's going to kick off the panel and we're going to intro everyone. And it's so excited to have you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Katie. And thank you for giving space for that land acknowledgement. I have to say, in my years of doing panels, that's the first time I've seen that done, especially digitally. Like, I think it sets such a really amazing tone as we move into this kind of space together. And, you know, obviously we encourage you, this is an interactive thing, so that if you have questions, pop them into the chat. Katie's going to be monitoring the chat so that at the end of our panel, we'll have time to go through questions or anything that comes up, or if something really resonates that somebody's saying, like send love, virtual snaps, whatever works, because it's nice to hear. You know, obviously we're all kind of operating in vacuums today. As Katie said, I'm Mel Luby, and I'm the Chief Impact Officer at DailyKarma. Our app, Shop for Good, is the highest rated giving app in the Shopify App Store, which we're very proud of. It allows our partners to quickly launch more than 6 different types of cause marketing campaigns, ranging from donate for discount to roundup or percentage of sales. And at our core as a company, we believe in providing nimble technology that allows our brands to give back no matter where they are. So whether it's in their growth or just accommodating to the ever-changing nature of the world. And really that's kind of what brought us here, was through conversations that Katie and I were having about how brands were giving back, and we found ourselves incredibly inspired by the stories that we were sharing with one another. And I kept being like, oh, this partner of ours is doing this, or this partner is doing this, or have you seen what that brand is doing? And so that's why we're here. And because no one really saw 2020 coming. It's been a year of upheaval and change, and no one has been left unaffected. So whether it's from businesses to our personal lives, this year has really forced us into a place of reckoning. But it's also forcing us into a place of amazing resilience as we challenge ourselves and our businesses to think outside the box. So we invited our panelists here to discuss how their brands have navigated the shift from the products they're making to messaging, and how they're engaging not only their employees, but also their communities around these messages of impact. So thank you for spending time with us today, and I'm excited to hear all about what you have to say. I'd like to take a second and have everybody just quickly introduce themselves, and then we're going to dive into questions. So I am going to go with who I see on my right, which is Daniel. Do you want to have a quick introduction?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us. Honored to be here. My name is Daniel Cassidy. I'm a founder and CEO of Rostaclot. We specialize in making bracelets, but really what our business, our brand is about mindset and encouraging people to seek the positive, having that positive mindset every single day. And that's what we're about. And really the pillars that we represent is equality and personal development. And so through this year, we really been taking those ideas and bringing them into the forefront, trying to balance product and also message and having impact at the same time. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and excited to talk a little bit more.
I see Patrice next.
Yes, hi, I'm Patrice. My company is Satya Organics, and it's actually a company I started because my daughter was in need. It's a topical anti-inflammatory that you use instead of steroids. She developed eczema, and the doctor said that was the only option for her. I'm also a former journalist, and I knew how dangerous it was. So I ended up making something for her based on my research skills and my crock pot in my kitchen. And now we're in 800 stores across Canada and exporting to a couple of different countries. And it's just really filled a real need out there for people who don't want to use steroids anymore for their skin issues. Now, also, as I mentioned, I was a journalist, not a business person. I did not know anything about running a business. So I created a business based on my values. So we have, I can definitely talk a lot about how we created a company based on those ideas of integrity and definitely purpose over profit, although we are profitable as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for being here. And also jumping in last minute as we had Jay's come down with being sick. So we're so grateful that you were able to hop in, and I can't wait to have so many questions for you. Next, we have the amazing Aisha from Bossy Cosmetics.
Yes. Hi, everyone. It's really an honor to be on this panel with DailyKarma, with Shopify, and with all of the other amazing entrepreneurs. So I really just wanted to say that. As you said, my name is Aisha, and I'm founder and CEO of Bossy Cosmetics. And Bossy has been, it's sort of a very natural part of my journey. So I was an investment banker for 21 years. And when I started investment banking, I thought I would do it for 1 year. And every year I just kept going and going and going. And I would say over the last 6 years, the last part of the 6 years of my career, I spent a lot of time mentoring women in their careers. And I just realized, even for myself and for younger women in finance, that dealing with issues around imposter syndrome and confidence were really, were pervasive, irrespective of socioeconomic background, race, etc. And so it was something I became very passionate about, and I started a media project called African Her Story. I'm originally Nigerian, and this media project was really to amplify the voices of professional African women. And as I did that, I learned even more and more and more around how women used beauty to almost create this projection of how they feel. And so when I came up with this insight, I guess 2-3 years ago, to start a beauty company, I really wanted it to sit at the intersection of my passion and my purpose. And my passion was around really elevating the voices of ambitious working women, but my purpose was around using confidence and really this intersection between giving and getting. And so I wanted women to feel like, yes, they are indulging in what might seem to be, a frivolous purchase, but for many women, how they look and how they feel is really projected very strongly. And so we decided when we were starting this company that we would work with nonprofits that really live the social message of this empowerment. And so we started off with 3 nonprofits, one that does advocacy work for sex trafficking victims around the world. It's a team of lawyers who work pro bono for victims. And then the second one was working with a company in Nigeria, a really amazing founder who has done a lot of work around domestic violence and sex assault. And then the third is Girls Inc., and they deal with young women and girls around confidence and building sense of self. And so I always tell people that, we are a mission-driven women's empowerment brand that just masquerades as a beauty company. Our business model is selling product, but our core sense of self is around elevating women and amplifying voices of women and girls and fighting social causes through purchases. So that's what we are. We are, we are mission first before product. And, I'd love to unpack how we struggled and then thought about that, when this pandemic hit. And for us, given our supply chain issues, we've been grappling with this since January.
Awesome. You guys, I'm so excited to dive into all of this with you. And last but certainly not least, we have John from Hedley Bennett.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. And I think when we had a little introduction panel, I had to follow all these amazing people then too. So hopefully I can do my share following. But yes, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Hedley Bennett. We're a culinary workwear brand. So we make products for the culinary world, aprons, chef coats, work shirts, and that's both professional and home consumers. But one of the things that we believe in as kind of a mission of the business is that food brings people together. And we've done that, through my time at the company, which has been almost 3 years now, really working how we can activate a community. And if anyone, knows anything about the chef community, is a very deep, passionate community who has also, you probably have heard a lot about them coming together now and during this COVID era. But how do we activate that community in order to do better and do good in the world? And so, for, the last number of years since I've been part of this business, we've worked with a number of organizations from, you may hear of like No Kid Hungry to feed kids without food, all the way to World Central Kitchen, which is one of our longest lasting and deepest relationships, which goes into all disaster relief around the world, supplying food to people who've been hurt by hurricanes, fires, COVID, and even getting involved during the protests to make sure people are fed on the streets when they're out there protesting. And so our role in that has always been to help promote that, promote their causes, and promote how we can help them as a brand. On the side, I'm also a founder of a nonprofit. I started an organization. I started an organization in Los Angeles that I brought from New York that I was involved with when I was also a former investment banker. Not 21 years. I only made it 5. But I called Minds Matter. We were looking to break down the social injustices and the barriers in the educational system for high school students. And so we mentor and give academic support to high achieving low income high school students and send them off to summer experiences up until this year, but virtual ones as well, and to college, and have a very amazing track record doing so. I hope to share any of that information. And I also teach a class of social entrepreneurship at a high school here in Los
Angeles. So all of you have a lot of time on your hands, is what I'm hearing. Like everybody, you have nothing going on outside of work, right? Like and I think that passion and like all of those things, you know, you're starting your own nonprofits, which Daniel, I know you guys are doing as well. Like there's so much, I think that there's so much, there's so many things that I want to dive in here, and I'm going to try to be articulate and quick in my questions, because I think even on our prep call, I was like, I just want to talk to you guys for hours, because I think each one of these questions in so many ways could have an entire panel on it itself. So, but like just to set the stage a little bit, like we talk about like what the phrase like being mission driven means, but you know, I feel like the more it comes up and becomes kind of this popular phrase, I think it has a lot of nuance and it means different things for different people. So for some brands and some founders, it's, you know, making sure that we donate a percentage of profits. Some, it's a leadership philosophy. So I think kind of to the whole group, I'd love to maybe come to maybe like, what is your definition of being mission driven, and maybe a sentence or two. Anyone want to start? I know it's a interesting.
I'll kick off.
Okay.
I think that ours is really, really simple. You know, I say it all the time that we ignite confidence in ambitious women. And that single sentence permeates everything that we do. And we never want to do harm, right? And so you know, our basic, you know, focus in life is to help women who are working with their confidence. But what does that mean? You've got to peel all the way back. Where does her confidence come from? Where does her lack of confidence come from? And so even in the photography assets that we use, in the ingredients in our products, in our packaging, in everything, in the partnerships that we select, every single thing about us, I say, is this projecting an image that is empowering for a woman or a young girl who comes to our site? So I think, you know, that's the mission, right? The mission is, if someone says to me, look, there's this product, or there's a really sexy photo that you can post on Instagram and it will guarantee you to sell out your collection, and the woman is half naked. And this is no judgment on people who want to be nude. But that's not my brand philosophy, right? And so if you just keep your mission at the core of every single decision you make, that's what it means for me to be a mission-driven brand.
I definitely hear that. That's great. Anyone else have anything to add there?
Yeah, I will. You know, I think, do you guys remember when there was that, it came out about corporations being like psychopaths, right? Like they just have no empathy and they're just single driven. I think of mission driven social impact companies as being healthy people. Like they have multi facets to themselves. Like they don't just think about one thing and only themselves. Like they think about the environment, they think about the people they work with, they think about the impact they're having on their communities. So I think, yeah, that they're mentally healthy businesses maybe would be one way of thinking about it.
I love that. I actually just wrote down healthy people, not psychopaths. So maybe we all
right.
aim to be healthy people, not psychopaths.
Yeah.
I think for me, it really comes down to as a brand and as a culture within a brand or a business, it's really standing for something and activating on it and doing it consistently, and making sure that within your organization, there's belief in that mission from top to bottom. And as some of us spoke about, you hire on it, you pick your partners based on that, and everything that you do is derived from that mission. And for us, it's about, we really think the problem in the world is negativity is the problem. And so what we're trying to solve is that mental health of making sure people are keeping a positive mindset and figuring out how they can do good for themselves first, because you cannot do good for others if you're not in a good place, and then following that up with inspiring others and giving back to the community. And so we do we make it such a priority to reestablish those beliefs and those values, and then we also do that with our audience, so we can continue to be one tribe. You know, I don't see our internal staff and our audience as different. We're all like one tribe, and it is that community. And so for us, that's what being mission driven means. And and doing that consistently day in and day out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I second kind of what everyone was saying there. I think one of the things that I point out, and it's an interesting question in terms of, and I'll be honest, I think Helene Bennett does a lot of mission-oriented activities, and we are still figuring out how do we become a better mission-driven brand overall, and how we put that at the forefront of what we do while we've activated in so many ways. For us, is trying to figure out how does that mission and as everyone kind of mentioned, become the decision makers of all the decisions we make versus kind of how do we just incorporate it into what we're doing. And we're kind of at this like precipice here where we're figuring this out as we go. And while we've done it for years, I think, COVID really helped change a lot of that internal discussion of what it means and how that interacts with us. And I think for me, when I say mission driven, I also use the term kind of purpose driven companies. And when I teach this class, I mention, to me, it's really about the trade-off between kind of still a commercially viable business that's self-sustainable with some type of social and environmental impact. And how do you marry those two together? And what I always find fascinating is panels like this, where brands and people figure out ways to do that. Versus, I look at my nonprofit where we're mission driven, but we don't have that economic impact that we can make because we don't make money. And so when you're a mission driven brand, I find it's like, if you can find that perfect Venn diagram where those two things come together, I've seen in my experience, kind of everything starts coming, revenues and impact start coming together like the right way.
Yeah. And can I also say, like, social impact is not a nice to have. If you are not smart enough to get everybody's voice to the table, you are not a good business person and you will go by the wayside. Like, we need everybody's voice, and that's what we're talking about here. So it's not like, oh, aren't we like the granola people? No, we're good business people as well. It just comes to us naturally because we actually care about people in the world. So
in this moment, that is what is very clear, right? The performative nature of talking about mission or talking about impact versus the people who live it, right? And I think that people are being challenged, companies are being challenged to really make this part of your DNA. As opposed to, the beauty industry is terrible at this, right? You go to a major beauty event and you'll see all of the imagery from these companies, every shade of color, every gender, everything. But the management, the key decision makers, does not reflect. And so I'm very intrigued right now. I'm hoping that this is not a moment and a movement, because making this part of your DNA in every single decision is what really makes you an impact-driven brand.
I want to just that's everything. Yeah, I mean, I have chills. Like, I think that's why we're all here, is like to push those conversations forward. Like, I love, Patrice, that you just said, like, it's not like we're not the granola people. Like, this is how to be operating, because and I think the two can't, it's not mutually exclusive. It's not like you're just choosing to be mission driven or being focused on growing your business. Like, the two intersect, and it's okay that they intersect. And I think that's really powerful. And there's something that kind of came up previously that I thought was, I'm hoping, Patrice, that we can elaborate on a little bit. Like, I was fascinated to hear that 98% of Indigenous entrepreneurs operate a quote unquote social impact businesses, but they don't necessarily call them that. Because it, and I'm interested to know, like, why you might think that is. I mean, I think that in and of itself, it seems like a philosophy, but I'd love for you to.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's inherent. Like, it's literally, like, when I talk about coming to the table, like, and everybody thinks, and I want to get to like a racial stereotype here of like the Indian chief, and they're the ones making all the decisions. No, it was actually the matriarchs who made those decisions. Based on talking to everybody in the community, they made the decision, and the chiefs were the one who integrated that into moving forward. And that's sort of been an inherent idea, is that everybody is bringing a perspective that unless you listen to everybody, you're not seeing the full picture. Yeah. And it's just a natural way of being, of like taking care of each other and being very community focused versus this idea of self, of like the self-made man and, you know, the captain of industry. Like that just, it's just not, it's psychopathic, really.
And Mel,
So yeah.
can I give you, she just said something that was really powerful. We had an instance at Rossaclot when, you know, the weekend where George Floyd and the riots were going on and Black Lives Matter was really proliferating that message. You know, we came into work Monday morning and we had a Zoom call with everyone. And, you know, I didn't necessarily know how to respond as a Black man. This is something that you kind of hear all the time and you live it. So it maybe doesn't hit you, you know, in a way that maybe it hits other people, especially in that moment. And it really took sitting with the team and having everyone just give their perspectives and their views and really like air it out. There was a heavy hearts at Rossaclot, you know, and it wasn't the easiest conversation to have. And like Patrice said, it wasn't the chief coming out and saying, this is what we stand for. It was our entire company coming out and saying, these are the things that we stand for. And I'm really the spokesperson of that. And I represent it and I live it as well. But that's what's so important. I think that culture, developing that culture when you're building a mission-based company is important, that people in your organization and your tribe, whatever you want to call it, are just as passionate about it as you are as a leader. And so in practice, like you said, Patrice, that's pretty powerful if you have that.
I mean, so what I'm hearing when you hearing that it's the sense of collaboration. It's not like that the impact mission or being, you know, impact focused, it shouldn't necessarily come from the top. It should be something that's cultivated from within the organization. Is that kind of?
Absolutely.
Like
I think everyone participates. Yeah.
It's just natural. It's like, okay, we're starting a business. How are we going to give a certain amount of profit back to the community? How do we make sure everybody's voice is being heard? How do we make sure that we're not damaging the environment in what we're doing? Like, we're not just taking a resource or taking people and not paying them a proper living wage or all those things. Like, just actually being equitable about everything. And that's just, I don't know. It's not like an idea. Like, let's do this. It just is.
And I also I take that step further, and we talk a lot about this, is people need to also understand and believe in what you are doing as a company. So I actually believe, you know, it's not that it's a top-down approach, but you know, a direction, a North Star needs to be established by someone at a company, typically a founder, a CEO, an entrepreneur. But they can't force people to do something if they don't want to do it. And so the employees underneath, you know, really truly believe in their role and how their role is also making an impact on the overall mission. So, you know, someone working in, like, for, you know, we're pretty vertical. Someone working in shipping may not necessarily understand the overall environmental impact we're trying to make, but when they look around at all the packaging we're using, that's when they start to get invested in saying, hey, okay, if this is where the company's going and wants to be like, these are the things I touch on an everyday basis. I don't touch, you know, making our aprons and how we're giving them out to, you know, food service workers, or how we're donating masks to frontline workers or things like that. That may not impact them as much as, you know, like you said, it's about all the different touch points of being socially kind of wise in what you're doing as a company. And we encourage our people on shipping to say, like, how do we cut out waste in what we're shipping? How do we cut out plastics and things like that? And so to me, it's always about empowering everyone at every level and every division to figure out how that mission also impacts their day-to-day job. Because it's great to talk about how we're going to change the world, and we have to do that. But it starts with, how do you change how you operate your own day-to-day job? Because that's going to trickle all the way up to hopefully then changing kind of how we act and live as a society.
So I agree with that 100%, John. I think, you know, this notion of consistency and culture is critical, because I think that if you are representing something externally, but you're not living it internally, it's not only is it inconsistent, it's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And another thing that I've noticed, you know, in these times, you know, you have women's magazines, you have corporations that exist to project particular image. And right now you're seeing a lot of people, reporters and editors within magazines that are coming out and saying, well, you know, for instance, Refinery 29, you know, people, you know, that exists to amplify the voices of women. Talk about art, lifestyle, beauty, etc., right? Really hard-hitting press points on focused on women. Well, a number of women of color within Refinery 29 have come out over the last month to talk about how they were completely, you know, sidelined and harmed while they were working for this women's focused magazine. So I think that culture within a company, you know, and you're right, John, you know, it starts from the top, and it starts from employee number one. And then it goes to employee number two. And it's about, look, this is the kind of culture. You have to be super, super intentional about the type of culture you want to create, around the type of products you want to create. How do you hire people? How do you create content? Whatever your business model is, you almost have to drench it in your mission. You almost have to be the evangelist when you are hiring people. I mean, I have found that I have to be repeated about who Bossy is, what Bossy is, why Bossy is, and not just for my employees, for my customers, right? You may find a red lipstick that you like, but I want you to understand how this lipstick came to be, what this lipstick represents. And if you vote with your feet against us, that's okay, because I really only want certain types of customers who really understand the value that we are trying to create in the world.
And you have to communicate that too. Like,
Yeah.
everyone in the company has to know what you're talking about. And they also have to be empowered, feel like they can actually have a voice, and empowered to innovate as well. Like, we have suggestions coming from our shippers that are absolutely amazing that we incorporate into the company. Everybody is bringing value, and it's not a hierarchy, right? It's this circular idea of we're all at this table together. Nobody has more value than the other. We just do different jobs.
And I think you bring up a really interesting point there, because we're you know, I love kind of hearing how we're talking about like this within the internal aspects of our businesses and the internal aspects of your companies. But I also think it's really interesting to talk about like how I feel like there's this growing social pressure, and we've seen that a lot with like the racial justice movement and COVID, like of brands to take stands on things. And so your customers are demanding things of you. And like, so I'd love to hear, I feel like Aisha, you know, we talked a little bit about this before, but I'd love to hear from everyone, like, how are you responding to these external, you know, these external voices of saying like, you know, how do you, or, you know, are you going to say something about this, or what are we going to do, whether it's COVID or the fires or racial justice or however, like, how do you engage your customers in this mission that you're focused on? Or how do you choose, I mean, and another side of that question is, how do you choose what you take a stand on? You know, I know there's a lot there, but like, I feel like there's so much that I want to hear from you guys on that.
Yeah, I'll tackle COVID and the racial justice movement. So I think when COVID first, I mean, as I said, you know, our supply chain starts in China, goes to Italy, and then comes here, right? China and Italy were broken. So we were literally in the middle of the problem. And I think that, you know, first, I'm very open, and I communicated with our community. I was like, guys, we are running out of product. We don't have stuff to sell. Our new collection isn't coming anytime soon, but guess what? I don't care. I'm really, really worried about my colleagues in China. I'm super worried about my colleagues in Italy, and I'm not gonna post anything about product. I'm not gonna talk about product. So let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about how we're handling anxiety. Let's do a bunch of IG lives where I can bring in people to kind of create this community issue. So I stopped talking about product, right? And I was like, what are you going through? Have you lost your job? How are you thinking about getting your skills up? So I really focused on the non-product aspect of how is she handling? Are you a mom? How are you dealing? So I brought myself, right? Because I am the bossy customer. I am the bossy woman. And so I told guys, listen, my husband is trapped in Nigeria. I'm here by myself with 3 kids. This is how I'm dealing. I'm going loopy. How are you dealing? And I became a part of the community. So that's how I dealt with COVID. And then I started to, one day I did an IG Live where I said, how can we help? Right? We don't have billions of dollars in revenue. What can we do? And a nurse said to me, even under my mask, when I'm in the hospital and I know that I have on red lipstick, I feel great. So I said, okay, healthcare workers, whoever wants free product, go on the website, DM me, send it to you. Now, did that change the world? No. But and even a surgeon actually said to me that when she is in surgery, she loves wearing lipstick. Sent her a bunch of things she picked. So for me, that was a small slice of a way that we could show up. The other thing on racial justice I'll say is, I am a Black mom. I have 3 Black sons. This is personal to me. As Daniel said before, this is relentless. I think about being Black every single time I leave my house in Palo Alto. Do I want to make everything about race? Of course not. Is everything about race for me? It is. So this was super personal. And, what I decided to do, because I didn't want to do this, Black Lives Matter. Of course it matters. I didn't want to post a black square. I didn't post any of that. I didn't believe in that. What I then became is more vocal about how hard it is to be a Black woman in business, how hard it is to be a Black mother. Some of the things I tell my Black husband to be careful about. I wanted people to understand that this woman who is, Ivy League educated, very pedigreed, etc., she is dealing with some of the most basic fears every single day. And the fact that I show up every single day for me is my protest. That is my social justice. The fact that I show up every day, my business is thriving, and I figure out ways to keep going, for me, just being what I believe is an amazing Black woman is my social justice movement.
That's amazing.
And can I just add, I just wanted to say, I love the lipstick thing. And you know what? We don't know, I think the problems are so big. We get so overwhelmed thinking we have to come up with a big solution. And sometimes it's that little thing that just changes people. It makes things better for them. Yeah. And I think a lot of us, we don't do things because we don't think it's enough. Mm-hmm. But it is, even the little things. Yep. It means a lot. Yep. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and similar, to the lipstick, we have a brand where, most of the time when you wear a bracelet, a necklace, or a ring or something like that, they're statement pieces, and they mean something more to you than, buying a pair of pants or whatever the case may be. And so we try to make products like this one I have on to seek the positive, and it's that reminder every single day to champion whatever that it is that makes you feel whole, right? And so we try to, like Aisha said, is our product is just a vehicle of our message. And so we try to create educational product and content. When you see our email on Friday, is nothing about product. It's about how to give back, good news that's happening in the world, how you can get involved in things that you're passionate about. And I think the biggest thing that we'll all face as leaders of the organization is, what do we say, what do we jump onto, and what do we not, right? Because every single week there's a pressure of shutting off your Facebook ads, donating, a month of all of your revenue to a specific cause. There's all these things that you're pressured to do. And I think what's really important is finding what you and your team and the culture is passionate about, and what you can sustain giving and doing every single to perpetuity, right? Because if you say Black Lives Matters today, or you say during COVID, I want to feed the hungry, you got to continue to support that through the rest of your brand. It's not a fly-by-night thing to say these things. You have to be very careful about what you say, and you have to make it a conscious effort every single time you go into a leadership meeting or strategy meeting or brainstorm with your company to continuously challenge ourselves to continue to give back. And so for us, it comes in the form of education, creating content with influencers about these topics, inspiring people to vote and change their worlds. Also, we're donating into different causes. For Black Lives Matter, we donated to Association of Study of African American Life and History, because we felt that education was really the problem, that people just didn't know, and that was a root problem of what was happening. And so this is the way that we continue to give back and drive that consistency for us. But there's definitely challenges in it, and it's not easy. And you got to learn when to say yes, that this is what we're passionate about, and when to say no if it's not authentic to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that consistency thing is so key and core to all, especially what's going on now. I mean, when we were one of the first brands to pivot to masks, and we made the decision that and it was based off the notion that there was a need in New York at the time, and we're in Los Angeles, and that there was going to be this greater need for frontline workers, and how do we get them product when we're sitting on thousands of yards of fabric and in-house sewers and people that need jobs, and can we put them to work right now, and can we be an essential business, and all these things, and not even knowing that there'd be this consumer demand after that. And the reason that's important is that we've debated, we still, I think today, because we debate this still currently, is we're one of the most higher priced masks out there of like apparel brands and people doing this stuff. And that's because of our 1-for-1 model. And we keep saying, do we drop the 1-for-1 and lower the price and get more competitive? And we've sold a lot of them. And it keeps coming back to, there's still this demand and need, and we don't say going on that we want to continue to support that. And if we try to play just the economic card and bring our prices down, but make a bigger margin because we're not making a second one and all this other stuff, is that why we got into the mass business to begin with? And we avoided that. We continue to avoid that and continue to find new ways to make product, to continue this going, that wasn't just this one shot, keep us in business type thing, that there is an ongoing need for this product. And one that, for me was, even I didn't understand until I started seeing the emails come in as we set up a whole donation request form. And from all over the countries, from literally the biggest hospitals in the country, asking us just for whatever you can supply us to, nursing homes and fire departments and police stations and schools and all these people. And it's like, okay, we need to stick to this core thing that we just came up on. And so, I think that is a key part. Dan says, like, how do you continue this? And maybe for us, it may not be mass forever, but how do we continue to keep this going? And I'd say too, like, I have clearly a very different, the Black Lives Matters and the protests have affected me differently. But for me, I have my other day job, which is my nonprofit. And it showed me, and you bring up education, that like, are we doing enough? And are we doing it right? And so I've started to double down on kind of both of my worlds and figuring out like, what more can we be doing? And, what more can I be doing? As, we had a mission when we launched that 20 years ago, but 10 years ago in LA, it's been that long. And we're not changing our mission, but we're looking internally as an organization, are we pushing in the right direction hard enough? And how do we do that in order to impact? I totally agree, like the education part, because we believe there's a big impact later on in life and how that can affect things.
I think that there's a lot of fear. Sorry, I just wanted to add in really quickly. There's a lot of fear around that things will stop. People won't keep moving forward. And it's because things like anger and hate and just like a feeling of injustice, they're not sustainable. Like, you just can't keep being angry all the time. You just can't. But something that you can do is keep love moving. And if you keep focusing on your love and how to share that love and how to move forward that way, that's sustainable. That's it.
I found myself just like hanging on every single word that you're saying. And that hearing you say that, I was shifting us in a different direction, but it's like that idea of sustainability. Like, we've seen these amazing effort, like we've seen a lot of big efforts, as I think people have touched on, it's mass production, which, John, I've been so inspired to see, and just the positivity that's outpouring, or giving lipstick to frontline workers, which as a lipstick wearer, I love, all of those things. But it's like, how can we, because every single, one of the things that I love about the Shopify platform is that it's meant for brands that are having $50 a month in sales, or $50 million a month in sales. So when we talk about that idea of like sustainability, whether it's, just making sure that we're always giving of love, but like, what are those other things? Or do you have any advice for maybe some of the, up and coming brands that are listening, or the founders that are listening, about like, what are the small things that they can do to either engage their customers in the giving process, or helping make sure that their brand values are being seen? Because, for example, every brand out of the bat might not be able to give a percentage of sales or have a production line of masks. Like, do you have any advice for them as far as like what small things they might be able to do, or other ways that they can engage in social issues, social movement, social entrepreneurship?
So I think that you should talk to your customers. I always find that, talking to your customers is you can sit down in an echo chamber and have a series of assumptions, but your customers will tell you what they really admire in a brand. And I can tell you that we were approached by a retailer once who said to us, "Oh, you shouldn't have your prices say $13.99 or $15.99 because that makes it look like you're a brand or you're on discount. You should do whole numbers." This is a luxury brand, a luxury retailer. And I said, "No, I actually do that because I want to encourage people to do the smallest thing, which is just round up by a penny." Right? And does it move the needle for the nonprofits that we are working with? Every single penny counts. And I think what happens is, from the customer standpoint, they feel great, right? Because I want you, at the time at which you're purchasing, to have this feeling of you are not only being empowered by buying this product that you love, but you are empowering a cause that is greater than you. And so by giving a penny, and people decide to give 10 pennies, 1,000 pennies, right? But if I tell you just give 1 penny, that is literally the smallest thing that you can offer someone. And so I think that talking to your customers is really important. Finding out what are the causes that we added Black Lives Matter onto our platform. It wasn't initially there, but we added it because of the moment, right? And so, no, I didn't talk to my customers about that. I did that because it's something that I wanted to do. But I think talking to your customers, when I found out that they wanted to wear lipstick, healthcare workers, I did it. So talk to your customers, talk to your stakeholders, talk to your community, find out what they want to know, what they want to do, and then help them break it down.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we try to do too, in leveraging kind of the platform and even our marketing vehicles, is also always offer. So, we always are looking for the daily karma and how do we generate that extra penny or the $5, but also giving alternatives to our customer as well. So that if it is, I mean, I'm all in on the extra penny and the $5 here, but we almost always, I'm thinking about, if there's a time we haven't, is say if you can't give or don't want to give, consider getting involved in this other way, and not just telling them to, but driving the traffic over there and knowing that if we're driving the traffic there, we're going to get it back. So the first time, I mean, give examples, the first time I was talking to Mel probably for like 3 months before or maybe longer before we ended up putting Shop Karma on there. And it was the hurricane in the Bahamas hit, and World Central Kitchen, our partner, was activating within, everyone probably saw Jose Andrea, the chef on CNN, and they were activating. We said we needed to do something. And we, within, 3 hours, had the app up and running and had an email going out. The first thing we said is, here's how you volunteer. It wasn't come to our site and donate, buy a product. And we were offering buy a product and give $5 and get 15% off. It was sign up here at World Central Kitchen and you to learn how to volunteer or work with them. Option 3, I think we had 3 options, was come to our site, buy a product, and you'll get, you can donate and get a discount. And we saw tremendous both feedback, people responding to our emails, people clicking on those links, and we looked at all those metrics, and even then the people coming and buying. And it kind of started our partnership with the app, but It's because it wasn't just like, come here and buy from us today and get a discount or do something else. It was, here are different ways you can get involved in something that people need to learn about right now. And we've continued along with, same thing with COVID, where you can get involved in other areas with Black Lives Matter, with everything we've done. I mean, there was the fires in Australia. I mean, we've done pretty much every disaster since the Bahamas. And so that's just something like, we've really been part of, is making sure our community sees that it's this full kind of circle that you're in. And we as a brand will continue to inform you how to get involved. And if you would like to come make a donation or make a purchase, we clearly want that. But as a brand, we're going to also tell you how to get involved in other ways.
Freaking
Great.
so much love. Absolutely. Because we always focus on money, right? And it's not about money. It's about building community. And it's about, how do we build that? How do we give back to each other in ways that aren't about the dollar?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, what were you going to say?
I just wanted to chime in on one thing. For us, we think, I run into so many people that are like, I want to give back, but they don't know where to start, right? And I think as brands, it's our responsibility to bridge that gap of like that barrier of entry of giving back and having change. So for some things that we do, when I think about the customer journey, is really engage them. Storytelling is the way that we've all come to learn about the world and our ancestry and all these things. And so every single person has an inspiring story, right? Some of the most inspiring people I've met are Uber drivers, right? Just going somewhere and they're telling you their life story. And I think our audiences, even as we're going through COVID and social justice issues and all those things, have a story to tell. And we pose a question to our followers, is like, how did you seek the positive today? How did you do something good for yourself or someone else today? And just building that community, and then in turn, like making it easy on your website, on your e-commerce, for someone to hear that story, be inspired, go to your brand because you represent that, and then make a purchase. And like you guys were saying, them feel good about what they did, because that emotion of feeling good about your purchase and knowing that it went to something positive is inspiring. And then people talk about your brand afterwards, and it just continues to, you have this retention, right? And I don't want to get all into business, but it's like there's that retention of that community that's needed there. So I try to think of it as a whole customer journey, and how do we continue to support it from top to bottom funnel. And it's it's pretty inspiring when you see it happen and these stories come in and they're shareable. So that's just the way we do it here.
So Mel, I just saw a question on the live from the top. Can I respond to one of the questions?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, no, because I think that some of the questions here are really interesting. So what's the most effective way to talk to customers? So I have found customers are so open to personalized emails and Zoom calls. So I can tell you that last summer, so pre-COVID, when people had more time, so it might be a little different now, I went through our system on Shopify and picked a bunch of names of people that I had no idea who they were. And of course, our system automates, thank you emails and da-da-da-da. But I would write very specifically, hi, my name is Aisha, I'm the founder, da-da-da. You bought this at this date. What did you think about it? But more importantly, I would love to have a Zoom call with you. And this Zoom call is going to cover the following few things. And and when you ask people for advice in emails, you would be shocked how many people are so happy that you have reached out to them. And so I set up all these Zoom calls, and it was such a delight, because every time the face would come up on Zoom, it would not be what I expected. I mean, it would be either the person's age or what they did. I mean, I would see a new face, and they would tell me what they do and how they discovered the brand and, their interaction with it. And it wasn't a call that was focused on buy more lipstick. I really wanted to understand who my customer was. Right? And so to answer your question, Natalia, I think the most effective way to talk to your customer, reach out to him or her directly and let them know that this is not a form message. This is a personalized message, and I would love to talk to you. Make the time. I really make the time to talk to my customers, whether they're going to be a repeat purchaser or not, and you find out that they generally will become because of this very personalized approach. And then another question to me, how does a founder weave her personal story into the business brand story? I would love to hear everybody's view on this, because I'm still learning how to do that. You know, just be yourself, I think I would say. Um, you know, I am a very big part of the why of my company, my own struggles with imposter syndrome, my own struggles with self-doubt. And so I am very honest with my customers, as to my life and what I'm struggling with and how I use lipstick to manage that. And then I also, I mean, I share videos of me cooking with my kids, or we do music lessons at home. So I keep it super. I don't do anything that's uncomfortable for me. I'd love to hear other people's views as to how they bring themselves into the brand story, because I want to learn from you guys, because you guys are amazing.
I honestly, I try to, whenever I feel uncomfortable, I remind myself that I'm here to be vulnerable and to be authentically me, because that's what people love. And I can actually share that as being, was a journalist. It was very often when I would screw up and make a mistake, that's when I was able to connect with people. And that's what people want to know. They don't want to see a perfect you. They want to see they want to see themselves reflected in you.
Yeah, I mean, same, I echo some of the same sentiments. I mean, I started my brand, I was, the concept of the brand started when I was 17 and I was an aspiring professional skateboarder. And used to take my extra shoelaces from my shoes and, fashioned a bracelet. And that's how Rasta Club began, and I always, whenever I speak to people, it's like, that's my story. It comes from just such like a simple thing as a shoelace and having a vision and turning that into something that, is abstract, but has meaning. And I tell people, you have moments of that every single day in everything that you do. You just have to have your mind open to that. And so for me, it's just sharing, like you guys said, authentically sharing your story, being extremely vulnerable. That's something that took me so long to learn. The title of CEO comes with like so much weight to it. You have to be perfect. You got to know all the answers are. And it's like, that's not the case. It's actually, it requires you to be more vulnerable, to hire people that are smarter than you, and to be able to just cultivate that and carry on your vision. And so, yeah, your story, your vulnerability, all those things that you talked about are important to exuberate every single day. And so, I've seen that work for me, and almost the less that you care about being something that you're not, the more successful you will be, and the more people will gravitate towards you.
I'd say, as not a founder on this panel, but I've actually been an advisor working with, I mean, this is my third, I've done a lot more than 3 things, but this is my third time helping to grow and build an entrepreneurial, actually female founded business with dynamic females who were also somewhat in the public spotlight, with social media presence, writing books, etc. And I think the biggest thing I've learned in each one, and the advice I've given to each one along the way, is, and for anyone who's a founder, male or female, like brands, too many brands try to be and have personality when they don't, because there's nothing dynamic behind them. And when you have a dynamic founder, you add so much more. You add a heartbeat to a brand that doesn't exist for the majority of brands. And everything you guys have all said, like, that's exactly right. It's like what an entrepreneur and a founder brings to their brand is that authenticity, brings their own life experience, their own stories. And you have to find a way, and for every brand it's different, to weave that into the brand narrative and story. Unless you want the brand to be you, which is I've also worked with celebrities on that regard as well. But I think that's the most important thing, is find that balance between what are you trying to do, and the values and the dynamics aren't going to be that far different, but there is a difference between, I always like to say, brands should talk in the third person, and the founder and CEO should talk in the first person. And how do you, but you should, and too many brands try to talk in the first person. And that's why I always am reminding my team that it's like, no, we're a brand. We're not a person. Let our founder come in and bring in those stories. And we're out there telling, reinforcing that message, reinforcing the story, but we're not telling them. That's what the founder's job is. And so it's finding that balance with your own business to where you can elevate that and bring that personalness that most brands cannot do. And I think that's the power of having a dynamic CEO or founder behind it.
I mean,
Also, I felt very nervous in the beginning when I started my company that everything really had to be super polished and perfect. And, like I would look at what other brands would do and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm not venture funded. And then I finally told myself, you know what, just be yourself. Like post the video with all the bloopers in it. Do not, if you cannot afford to pay, a studio $50,000 to produce this video, you've got a phone, just film it yourself. And that's just the way it's going to have to be. And honestly, for me, first of all, it was liberating to give myself that permission. But then what was even more exciting was people loving it. People saying, oh my God, I love how you said that. Or, I would we do a lot of interviews of successful women. And at first I felt, okay, I need to get somebody to polish it up. And now literally, as I'm talking to you, I'm filming it. And what I record is what I'm going to post. And bloopers and all, mistakes and all. And you know what? I think that's the kind of brand we want to be. We want to tell real stories with real women. And I'm not, again, nothing against people who do the super shiny, flashy stuff. But and maybe one day, when we have a lot of money, we will. But right now, we don't, and we still need to tell those stories. So we'll tell them in the way that we can afford to, and I'm very okay with that.
I think there was a question that said, repeating the statement between third person and first person. I think what you just said is exactly what I'm getting at, which is brand, depending on your brand, the brand's role is to be the polished. But when you represent the brand, throw that all out the window. If the brand has this perfect style guide and call it like, that's for the brand, and you should stick to that as a brand unless your brand is sloppy and whatever not. But when you come into the founder and the person Maggie answered the question, that's when you are you. And there's no need to follow the brand, and vice versa. The brand, if you have a style guide, don't try to be the person either. Don't try to now come off sloppy and be someone you're not. And it trains consumers to understand the difference too. And so when you want to talk to them in different ways, they understand who's talking to them. The brand typically wants to sell a product. You want to build a community or do whatever else it is. So I think that's the point I was trying, that's the point between the third person and the first person.
And let's be clear, we're not sloppy, we're parents.
Which might be the same thing, by the way.
Right, and perfect. Right? I think what I'm hearing a lot of, and I want to, is this idea of like being okay with being truly like authentically yourself, like real authenticity, not like shiny authenticity, but like the real stuff, like warts and all, messes and all, and I think COVID, as challenging as, this whole experience of going completely digital has been, one of my favorite things, and I feel like on a business level and a personal level, has been getting like the veil is down in so many ways, like everybody's kids, dogs, mailman, everybody's like, our lives, like, business calls are happening in our bedrooms. And I find that to be really liberating, because when we give ourselves a little forgiveness, and how we're presenting ourselves or how we're talking about things, people connect with that, because they're like, oh, cool, they're not perfect either. Like I can forgive myself for that. And I know we're running a little over, but I want to give everybody kind of any last thoughts before we start closing up. Like I've been so unbelievably inspired, and it's like, is there any one thing you want to leave people with, as a result of our discussion today? Anyone?
I just met you guys, and I freaking love all of you, like, already. Like, I love finding more people who are part of my tribe. Like, it's amazing. So
thank you. Yeah, I think on my end, I'm honored to be here. I know there's a lot of listeners that are out there, and I always put myself in your shoes, and trying to build a brand and all those things is very difficult. I love to mentor people, try to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that I did. So follow me on Instagram, DM me whenever you would like. Always lending an ear. And other than that, let's just continue to make change. It's so inspiring being on this panel and knowing that this is this is the world that we live in, and everyone has to take a stance and do something great for the planet and for humanity. And we're leaders, we're pioneers, we're mavericks. So let's continue doing this, and let's support each other, and let's do this again in a year or whatever, and let's see where the world is at, and what impact that we've had. So thank you guys.
In person.
Yeah,
In person.
I know. I'm taking Daniel up on the mentorship, by the way.
Oh, let's do it. I've got a lot to learn from you too, so let's do it.
It's such an honor to be on this panel, and I think if there's one thing I'll say as we go away is, be the change that you want to see in the world, right? Be the thing. You are inspiring people in a way that you don't even know. You are a role model, you are a leader. Sometimes when people tell me I inspire them, it scares me because I'm like, me? But we literally have to hold ourselves in a way so that we can lead other people to do the same. So just continue to be the change, and it will have an immense ripple effect.
Anything? I'm like, I don't want to interrupt anybody. Anything else?
And also, just be kind to yourself too. We're all going through a lot right now. We're all trying to do a lot right now. And even if it's a little thing, you're still moving forward. There will be good days and bad days, big days and small days. So be kind to yourself.
I love that. Thank you. I hope that we can have like we'll have a class reunion in a year. This will be our little time capsule. And I'm so honored to have gotten to share space with you guys today. Katie and Shopify, thank you for kind of creating an opportunity for us to get together and just chat like friends. I'm so unbelievable. Like, I've had chills the entire time we're sitting here just because you guys are so unbelievably badass. And that's the only time I cuss this panel, so my business partner will be proud of me. But I thank you guys. Thank you, Katie and Shopify. There's the concept I want to maybe leave us with this idea of like 2020 is like burned a lot down. And I keep thinking about this phrase, or there's a saying that I've read over and over again, which is barn burnt down, now I can see the moon. And I felt like that might be like maybe a little bit over the top for this, but I can't help but feel like that's exactly what's happening. Like, so much change has occurred. So many things have shifted. And as a result, like, we're now engaging digitally in these amazing conversations that maybe we wouldn't have been able to get in the same room to do. And I'm so grateful for that, and so grateful for what has been brought as a result. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. Katie, any last words?
This is awesome. I want to say this is amazing. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I know I did. Like Mel said, chills, major chills the entire time. And my phone is ringing, of course. And I just want to let everyone know in the audience that we are going to be hosting another one. This is going to be a reoccurring meetup for social enterprises to come hang out, listen to other brands. It might be in panel format, might be in networking format, we'll see. But this has been amazing, and it's just the start. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for all of your time, panelists. You guys were so inspiring. I know that freaks you out. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Katie,
Thank you.
Al.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.